Hello, America. I'm Mark Levin. This is Life, Liberty, and Levin in our special election edition. I think it's apropos to begin this program with a quote from Thomas Paine, one of the great early pamphleteers, journalists, if you will, reporters, if you will. And he wrote Common Sense, which was read by about 125,000 colonists. That's a lot of people back then. He also wrote a pamphlet called The American Crisis, and he wrote it on December 23, 1776. And George Washington and other founders have credited Thomas Paine, among others, but Paine in particular, with giving the intellectual and the patriotic founding for our movement for independence. And here's what he said in part. These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will in this crisis shrink from the service of their country. But he that stands by it now deserves the love and thanks of man and woman. Tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered. Yet we have this consolation with us, that the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. What we obtain too cheap, we esteem too lightly. It is dearness only that gives everything its value. Heaven knows how to put a proper price upon its goods, and it would be strange indeed if so celestial an article as freedom should not be highly rated. Freedom was his emphasis. Britain, with an army to enforce her tyranny, has declared that she has a right not only to tax, but to bind us all in all cases whatsoever. And if being bound in that manner is not slavery, then is there no such a thing as slavery upon earth. Even the expression is impious, for so unlimited a power can be only with God. That's Thomas Paine. You don't hear much about Thomas Paine these days, certainly not by the media. Now, why am I reading that? What kind of soldier are you? I'm not talking about Army, Marines, etc. What kind of soldier are you? Are you a soldier for liberty or not? Because that's what this election's all about. The men who founded this country understood liberty. The men who founded this country understood the limitations of government. And the men who founded this country also understood what was meant by a free press. Do you know, back before the Revolution and during the Revolution, there were only a couple of dozen newspapers, a little over 30, less than 40. Even before that, there were a relative handful of printers. And the printers were the great patriots, because how else would you get the word out? But the pamphleteers were key. There were many, many pamphleteers. And they would write their pamphlets, which would include some news of the day, typically old news, because it took time for news to travel. But the vast majority of the pamphleteers were patriots for liberty, for limited government, for representative government, for private property rights. They were pamphleteers against tyranny, and their pamphlets would be posted at pubs and other public places. Their pamphlets would be circulated and by mouth discussed at the dinner table and among community meetings and so forth. These were true patriots, and they had a big cause, the cause of founding an independent United States. Contrast that with the media today, which is crucially important in this upcoming election. Contrast it with the media today. Do the media ever talk about individual liberty, private property rights, natural law, unalienable rights? Do they ever talk about that? No. What do the media talk about? Typically one of two things: pushing the progressive left agenda or trashing the President of the United States. That's pretty much it. They are Johnny and Janie two-notes. And it's a big problem in this country. So this election is about not only defeating many, many radicals that the Democrats have nominated, some of them are outright bigots, but it's also about pushing back against the media that has no comprehension whatsoever what freedom of the press means, the history of freedom of the press, and why it's so important. Freedom of the press exists to undergird freedom of speech. Freedom of the press is simply a person or a group of people, or today businesses, communicating with the American people, sharing information with the American people. But freedom of speech is the basis for freedom of the press. But when the press becomes myopic, malignant, when so-called reporters are really practicing groupthink, because the vast majority of them are located in and around Washington, D.C., in or around New York City, in and around Los Angeles, not Kansas, not Missouri, not Arkansas, you name it, all the states in between. Well, then they have a pretty much aggregate mindset. And that aggregate mindset is to advance the cause of centralized government, ubiquitous government. And now, even worse, they are attacking those of us who disagree with that alien ideology, progressivism, that was imported into the United States. Progressivism, which is the progeny of, yes, Marxism, Karl Marx, Friedrich Engels, Hegelism, Hegel, German philosophers who wrote about fundamentally transforming and altering the kind of society that we have, attacking capitalism, attacking the individual, insisting that the only way the individual can be really fully realized is through the state, that we all must be a part of the state, we all must work for the state, pushing this notion of radical egalitarianism. Let me ask you something. In Arizona, the Democrat Senate candidate, is that not her? In Florida, the Democrat gubernatorial candidate, is that not him? In Georgia, the Democrat gubernatorial candidate, is that not her? Is it not Bernie Sanders and Kamala Harris? Is it not Barack Obama and all the rest? The Democrat Party now is not the Democrat Party of even 30, 40 years ago. The Democrat Party is an extremely radical, European-type left-wing party. And in order for their agenda to advance, they must undermine our constitutional order and our Republican order. But it's not just them. They have a mouthpiece, they have a voice, and that is the modern-day American media, the press. Survey after survey has shown us that the vast majority of so-called reporters are liberals and or Democrats. The vast majority of so-called journalists or reporters live at the edges of the country, not in the center of the country. The vast majority of the major media live in the edges of the country, not in the center of the country. So we have this cultural battle going on between those of us who wish to uphold our traditions, those of us who actually believe in constitutional republicanism, and those who do not. And the reason why the Kavanaugh hearings were so important, because it all came to a head right there. Basic issues of Western civilization and the Enlightenment, basic issues of the American founding, due process, presumption of innocence, were on trial, were on display at that hearing over a Supreme Court justice. And the Democrats, to a man and woman, rejected the Enlightenment, rejected Western civilization, rejected the Bill of Rights. Oh, it's just an interview. It's not just an interview. If somebody's accused of criminal behavior, whether it is in a congressional form or some other form, they have basic rights. They're not guilty until proven innocent. They are innocent until proven guilty. And in Kavanaugh's case, there wasn't a shred of evidence. There wasn't a scintilla of evidence. None. And yet look what they did to this man. But this is illustrative because they're doing it to you. Throughout the media, as I speak, when you look at CNN or MSNBC, when you read the Washington Post or the New York Times and that ilk, they're trashing you, the American people. They're comparing you to Nazis. They're calling you racists. They're calling you white supremacists. We reject this. We abhor this. We embrace individual liberty and constitutionalism and unalienable rights for all people, regardless of color, regardless of gender, regardless of religion. We believe in the individual. That is our philosophy. That is our philosophy as conservatives. They do not. They identify us as groups. They put us into groups. And you can see it on CNN and MSNBC in particular. It's truly outrageous. And these are news organizations. And they are so furious that they were not able to determine who would be president in the last presidential cycle. They have spent every hour and every day since Donald Trump was elected president, actually before, every hour and every day trying to destroy his character, trying to uproot his administration, trying to create controversy in order to diminish him and diminish you, and to change the course of the 2016 election and to change the course of history. That's exactly what they're doing right now. It's time to stand up. That's what Tuesday's about. For ourselves, for our families, for our faith, for our country, for our party, and for our president. It's time to stand up. I know the vast majority of you, if there's early voting, have already voted or you're prepared to vote on Tuesday. It's not enough. You need to be Thomas Paine. You need to tell your family, friends, colleagues, and neighbors that they must vote. If they're going to vote the right way, you need to be in charge. You need to be following up with them. You need to be your precinct captain. If those of you watching me now contact 4, 5, 6, 7 people or even more, take it upon yourself. Forget about the political party and the RNC. Take it upon yourself, you, the modern day Thomas Paine, to get the vote out in your own little familial or social circle. You will make the difference in close elections throughout the country for the Senate, for governorships, and congressional races. You will push back against this force in the media, against this force in the Democrat Party, against this force in Hollywood. You will push back against the far East Coast and the far West Coast that's trying to devour and control the rest of the country. It is time to push back. The press has interposed itself in this election in a way that I have never seen before. In a way that I've never seen before. They want you to believe that the President of the United States is a racist because of his immigration policies. The President is not a racist. The President's immigration policies are identical to what Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Harry Reid, Joe Biden's immigration policies were a decade ago. A decade ago. They want you to believe that this president is destroying freedom of the press. How so? By calling them out? By calling them out and exposing what they're doing? Unlike John Adams in the Sedition Act, back when he was president, or Abraham Lincoln in his executive order, or Woodrow Wilson and the Sedition Act of 1918, we don't have any Sedition Act that this president is enforcing. He's not putting journalists and editors in prison as those presidents did. He's not shutting down newspapers as those presidents did. The only threat he poses to the media is he fights back. President's not attacking any part of the Constitution. He's trying to defend the Constitution. But it's up to us now. It's up to you and me. The question is this. We have men and women, young men and women who volunteered to fight for this country throughout our history. And we have men and women today in one hellhole after another. What are they fighting for? Are they fighting for the fundamental transformation of America? Are they fighting for this government program or that government program? Are they fighting for some bigots who are running for office as Democrats? Are they fighting for a so-called free press that continues to trash this country? No! They're fighting for you and your principles. And the least we can do here at home is to not only vote, but make sure our family, friends, colleagues, and neighbors vote too. It's not asking too much. It's up to us. If more of us vote than them, we win and they lose. This is a truly, truly crucial election for you, for your family. What kind of country do you want to have? That's what's on the ballot. You're going to vote or you're going to watch? You're going to get others to vote? I have a lot of faith in you, America. I have a lot of faith in you who are viewing the program. We'll be right back.